We know that the longest side in a right triangle, which is the C, is what we call as the hypotenuse. So, right triangle lang yung tinatawag nating hypotenuse. So, the longest side in a right triangle is what we call as the hypotenuse. While the other two sides there in a right triangle, we call that as the legs of a triangle. Yes! 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 My dear students. Bakit nga ba yun? So, yun yung mga katagang lalabas sa bibig ninyo kapag nakasagot kayo ng isang math problems correctly. So, because it only means that you understand the lesson that we tackle. Hopefully, for the lesson that we are going to tackle today, masambit mo yung mga salitang yes, yes, yes. So ano pang hinihintay natin? So let's start the lesson now. So what we are going to discuss now is about lesson number 4. So lesson number 4 natin, we're going to talk about here Pythagorean Theorem and special right triangle. So bakit nga ba Pythagorean Theorem special right triangle? Pumunta tayo sa triangle. It's because when we are talking about quadrilaterals, and more specifically when we draw the diagonals of a quadrilateral or specific diagonal of a quadrilateral, we can form their triangle. So if we are going to draw the diagonal of a rectangle, diagonal of rhombus, diagonal of a square, we can form their particularly right triangle. So these lessons that we are going to tackle today will be used when we are going to encounter right triangle. So these two lessons are for right triangle, namely the Pythagorean Theorem and the special right triangle. So, umpisa na natin. So, let's start it with this given right triangle. So, right triangle with this side as A, this side as B, and this side as C. We know that the longest side in a right triangle, which is the C, is what we call as the hypotenuse. So, right triangle lang yung tinatawag nating hypotenuse. So, the longest side in a right triangle is what we call as the hypotenuse. While the other two sides there in a right triangle, we call that as the legs of a triangle. Pwede kang maging specific na pwede mong sabihin na one is the shorter leg while the other one is the longer leg. But basically, they are just the legs of that right triangle together with the hypotenuse as the as the longest side of that right triangle. So, since we know already the parts of a right triangle, so let's proceed now on discussing Pythagorean Theorem. So ano nga ba yung tinatawag nating Pythagorean Theorem? Pythagorean Theorem states that the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of its legs. Remember kanina yung figure? So if you're going to apply Pythagorean Theorem there, which states that the square of the hypotenuse, ano ba yung hypotenuse natin doon? That is denoted by the small letter C. Equal daw yon to the sum of the squares of its legs, which are the legs are the A and B. Squares of it, then sum it, we come up with the formula for finding the hypotenuse. So that statement, if we're going to turn that into an equation, we'll come up with the equation as C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. So if we are going to turn this into symbols, so ganito yung kalalabasan niya, that C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. So ayan yung tinatawag natin as Pythagorean Theorem. So that Pythagorean Theorem, that basically the the equation c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, yan yung ginagamit natin when we are finding for the hypotenuse. Pythagorean theorem usually pinuprove pa natin yan, but uh, uh, proving it will take time. So that's why we have just given that formula in order for us to use the Pythagorean theorem. So for us to find out for the hypotenuse using Pythagorean theorem, we are going to make use of c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. And sir, what if the legs are what we are looking for? How are we going to do it? How are we going to find it? So by isolating this main formula on finding the hypotenuse, we can also come up with the formula for finding for its legs. Let's say, for example, we are going to find for A on the figure kanina, that's also known as the shorter leg. If we're going to find out for A, we come up with the formula A squared is equal to C squared minus B squared. So, kung A ang kinukuha nyo, equal yon to the square of the hypotenuse minus the square of the other leg. So that's also true when the other leg is what we are looking for. So that would be b squared is equal to c squared, the square of the hypotenuse, minus the square of the other leg. So ang plus lang is that when we are looking for the hypotenuse. So we just simply get we get the sum of the squares of its legs, then we get the square root of it. The square of it or the square root of it for us to find for the hypotenuse. But these two other formulas are used when we are asked to find for the legs of it. So that is for the legs of that Pythagorean. The legs when we are going to find for the legs of a given right triangle. Kasi dito, the only measure that we know are the sides of the triangle. Two sides of the triangle are given. And we are asked for the measure of the third side. So if that is what we are looking for, that is the given, so we can make use of the Pythagorean theorem as long as we know that the given triangle is a right triangle. So paano ginagawa yun? Let's try that through example. So let's have here example number 1. So we do have here a given right triangle with a given measurement for this side as 3, particularly the shorter leg, and this side as 4 as the longer leg. So what we are looking for is this side, which is also known as the hypotenuse. So to find for the measure of that side, which is also known as the hypotenuse, we're going to make use of the formula for our solution. For our solution as c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So any of the two, pwede natin palitin naman yung A and B. It doesn't necessarily mean na yung A is a shorter leg. Kahit ano yun, because that's why we call it as just the legs, di ba? So para maging specific tayo, yung A natin is the shorter, while yung B is the longer. So we just simply substitute the given here. So we come up with c squared is equal to 3 squared plus 4 squared. Then, simplifying it, magkakaroon tayo 3 squared which is 9 and 4 squared which is equal to 16. And 9 plus 16, that would be equal to 25. Since we are looking for the value of c, which is the value of the hypotenuse, we still have to remove this square here. We can remove that by simply getting the square root of both sides of the equation. So we can remove down the square there, so that c will be left, and square root of 25 is equal to 5. So therefore, the measure of this side, which is the hypotenuse, is equal to 5. It's true naman, it's because hypotenuse, we made mention that it is the longest side in a right triangle. So this measures 3, ito ay 4, so the longest is 5. So the value of the hypotenuse is equal to 5. Nakuha example number 1. So let's try another example. Let's have example number 2. Another given right triangle here. So with a given measure for that side, which is the hypotenuse, as 10, and this side, which is the longer leg, as 8. So what we are going to find out is the measure of that side, which is the shorter leg. Sabihin natin, that's A. So for our solution, So balik tayo doon kanina sa mga formula na pwede natin gamitin. Since the leg, one of the leg is what we are looking for, so we can make use of the formula of a squared is equal to c squared minus b squared. Yan yung kaninang formula na pinorm natin from the Pythagorean Theorem. So a squared is equal to c squared minus b squared. So since the hypotenuse is given, so that's c squared, then the square of the other leg, sasubtract natin nun sa square of the hypotenuse. So substitute lang natin, we come up with 10 squared minus 8 squared. Simplifying it, and time 100 minus 64. And 100 minus 64 is equal to 36. And for us to remove square there, we have to get the square root of both sides of the equation. So that the value of A, which is the shorter leg, is equal to 6. So the measure of this side is 6. That is by using the formula that we formed about Pythagorean Theorem. So did you get example number 2? So let's try another. Another given right triangle here. With a given measure of that side, which is the hypotenuse, as 12, and that side, which is the shorter leg, as 7. So we are going to find out for the measure of that side, which is the longer leg. So let's say it's B. So for our solution, we can make use of the other formula. So B squared is equal to C squared minus A squared. So take note, kapag leg ang inaanap natin, so minus yun. Square ng hypotenuse minus the square of the other leg. So substitute lang natin yung mga given natin. Hypotenuse is 12, so that would be 12 squared. Then minus 7 squared. Simplify that. 12 squared is 144, while 7 squared is 49. 144 minus 49 is equal to 95. Get the square root of both sides. Since 95 is a non-perfect square, there are also no factors of 95 wherein one of its factors is a perfect square other than 1. So we come up with the answer to it as B is equal to the square root of 95. So ang value ng B natin, which is this side, is the square root of 95. So nasa around 9 point something yung measure of B. When you use the calculator and you get the value of the square root of 95, it's a 9 point something. Siguro nasa 9.6 or 9.8, 9.6, 9.7 or 9.8. Nasa mga ganun yung value of B. So it's true pa rin, it's because since longer leg yon, mas malaki dapat siya. And hindi na nalagpasan yung measure of the hypotenuse. So that's how we answer example number 3. Any questions there? Now, saan natin magagamit yung Pythagorean Theorem when there is a given quadrilateral? So, let's have this example. Example number 4, the given is quadrilateral IGOP is a rhombus. Find x and y as well as its perimeter. So we are going to find for the value, the measure of x, the value of x and the value of y together with its perimeter. So paano mo kunin yung perimeter? Hindi mo alam measure of the given. Para makuha mo yon, you have to find out first the measure of this side, the measure, the value of x and y. The value of x and y will help you to find for the perimeter of it. So we are here going to find 3 things: value of x, value of y, and its perimeter. So paano? So let's find first for of x. So binanggit do sa property ng rhombus that diagonals of a rhombus bisect each other. So ibig sabihin, yung diagonal na to, hinati niya yung diagonal na to into 2 equal measures. Ibig sabihin, they are congruent in measure. So by knowing that, we can solve for x by equating the 2. So we come up with 2x plus 3 is equal to x plus 6. So move x to the left side while 3 to the right side. we'll come up with 2x minus x, which is equal to 6 minus 3. Simplifying it, we'll come up with x is equal to 3. So the value of x now is 3. How about y? So this diagonal naman, hinati niya yung diagonal to into equal measures. So same way on what we did on solving for x. So to solve for y, we can also equate the two given measure of the segments there. So we come up with 5y plus 3 is equal to 4y plus 5. Then, combine similar terms, move 4y to the left side and 3 to the left side, 4y to the left side and 3 to the right side. So meron tayong y, when simplified, y is equal to 2. So we already got the value of x and the value of y, which is 3 and 2. So isa na lang kailangan natin kunin. We are going to find the perimeter of that rhombus. Pero paano natin kukunin yung perimeter na hindi natin alam yung measure of any of its sides? So kasi since rhombus yan, basta malaman mo lang yung measure ng isang side, alam mo na yung measure of the other three sides because ang rhombus ay meron siyang 4 congruent sides. So isa lang kailangan malaman. So paano malalaman yon? You can make use of the value of x and y here. Paano? So, substitute mo lang yung x dito. So, ang value ng x ay 3. So, 3 plus 6 is equal to 9. So, kung 9 to, 9 din to. Then, the value of y, that's 4 times 2, that would be 8 plus 5, that would be 13. Kung 13 to, 13 din to. And one property of a rhombus states that diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. Diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. So, ibig sabihin, it produces 90-degree angle. So, meron tayong right triangle na given there. So, ito ay 9, ito ay 13. Ayun. So, given yung measure of the two sides. So, what you're going to do is to find for the measure of the third side. It so happened that it is the hypotenuse of it. So, that's why we can make use, we have to solve first for the measure of the side. So, kailangan muna natin hanapin yung measure of the side before we find out for the perimeter, the measure of the perimeter of that given rhombus. So, to find for the measure of the side, we can make use of the Pythagorean Theorem. So, since the hypotenuse is what we are looking for, so we can make use of the formula c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So, this is 9 and this is 13. So, just simply substitute it, that would be 9 squared plus 13 squared. 9 squared is 81, while 13 squared is 169. 81 plus 169 will come up with 250. Then get the square root of it, since 250 is a non-perfect square, but it has factors. The right factors for 250 is 25 times 10. Because 10 does not have any more factors when one of its factors is a perfect square other than 1. But 25 is a perfect square. What's the square root of 25? That would be square root of it. Square root of 25 is 5. Then 10 will be left inside the square root sign. So that will come up with the value of c as 5 square root of 10. So ibig sabihin, 5 square root of 10 yung measure ng side na to. Kung 5 square root of 10 yan, of course, the other measure of the other three sides are also 5 square root of 10. So by knowing that, we can now find out for the measure of, or we can now solve for the perimeter of that rhombus. So we can use the formula P is equal to 4S. Same lang naman siya ng formula ng square. Kasi we are pertaining to the perimeter of it, and a rhombus has 4 congruent sides. So 4 congruent sides, so that would be the same as 4S. So simply substitute the measure of the side, which is 5 square root of 10. We come up with 4 times 5 square root of 10. So 4 times 5 will come up with perimeter, which is equal to 20 square root of 10 units. So yun yung measure of the perimeter. So bago mo ma-solve yung perimeter na hinahanap na yon, kailangan mo nang gamitin yung Pythagorean Theorem with the help of the measure of the value of x and y na nauna natin ginawa. So, ayan yung gamit ng Pythagorean Theorem in our lesson about quadrilateral. So any question? So if none, so we're through about Pythagorean theorem. Let's proceed to the next. Next is about special right triangles. Meron tayong two kinds of special right triangles. So ano yung mga yon? Unahin natin, yung natawag natin 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees special right triangle. What do you think is the reason why it's called special right triangles? Eh, kasi, um, once we know that it's special right triangle, just like 30, 60, and 90 degrees, kahit isang given lang na measure ng side of a right triangle, malalaman na natin measure of the other two sides. Not unlike Pythagorean Theorem, kailangan may given mo ng dalawang measure of the sides para makuha mo measure of the third side. Ito, yung special right triangle, kailangan mo na ng isang measure ng side, then you can right away get the measure of the other two sides. As long as you know that it is a special right triangle. That's just like, for example, 30, 60, and 90 degrees special right triangle. It's like, for example, this one. So, kung right triangle yan, so, etong angle na to, of course, that's 90-degree angle. Itong angle na to ay 30 degrees. Itong angle naman na to ay 60 degrees. Of course, the side opposite the 90-degree angle is the hypotenuse. The side opposite the 30-degree angle is the shorter leg, while the side opposite the 60-degree angle is the longer leg. Again, that's the hypotenuse. Yun naman yung shorter leg, and ayun naman yung longer leg. So, basta yung matatapatan ng 30 degrees, ayun yung shorter leg, side na matatapatan nun, then the side opposite the 60-degree angle is the longer leg. Ito, very specific tayo about the shorter leg and longer leg. And of course, let's not forget, still, the longest side in the right triangle is the hypotenuse. So, paano sinasabi natin na isang measure lang ng side, malalaman na agad natin yung measure of the other two sides as long as we know that it is a special right triangle na katulad ng 30, 60, 90 degrees. Let's take for example, given the shorter leg, kapag ang given mo ay shorter leg, dito you have to come up with the measure of the two angles para malaman mo na 30, 60, and 90 degrees yun. So, if the given is a shorter leg, for you to find for the hypotenuse, it's just like twice the shorter leg. So, kung ano yung measure ng shorter leg, multiply mo lang yun by 2, ayun yung measure of the hypotenuse. How about the longer leg? So, kung shorter leg ang given, for you to find for the longer leg, yung shorter leg should be multiplied by square root of 3. Multiply lang yung shorter leg, kung ano yung value ng shorter leg mo, just multiply it by square root of 3. Paano yun? Let's try this example. So that's 30, 60, 90 special. Usually, kahit wala yung 60 degrees na yan, kahit di mo ilagay dyan, alam mo na special right triangle yan because there's 30 degrees here. Kapag wala to, alam mo rin na special right triangle yan because meron 60 degrees doon. So, kapag wala yung dalawa na yan, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na special right triangle siya. Kasi hindi mo alam yung measure of this any of these two angles. So most probably, ang gagamitin mo ay Pythagorean Theorem, but you need two measures of the sides. So, kapag ganyan given, for example, given ang shorter leg daw. So let's say sabihin natin measure ng shorter leg ay 16. Ang shorter leg again is the side opposite the 30-degree angle. So 16 ang measure ng shorter leg. So to find for the hypotenuse, it's just like twice the shorter leg. Itong hypotenuse, multiply mo lang by 2 yung shorter leg. So you'll come up with 16 times 2, which is equal to 32. But for you to find the measure of this longer leg, itong side na to, sabi dito, longer leg is equal to shorter leg, that's 16, multiplied by square root of 3. So 16 times square root of 3, will come up with 16 square root of 3. So, isa lang yung given measurement mo ng side, malalaman mo na yung measure of the other two sides. That's why it's called special right triangle. So, malalaman mo lang yon kapag given in any of the two measures of these angles. So, not enough na 90 degrees lang yun, dapat may 30 degrees pa. Or, dapat may 60 degrees pa. Usually, isa lang ang nilalagay para ma-identify natin that special right triangle. That is first if your given is the shorter leg. Next, what if the given is the longer leg? So kung longer leg yung given natin, to find for the shorter leg, sabi dito, longer leg multiplied by square root of 3, then divide by square root of 3 para makuha mo yung shorter leg. Yung longer leg na given mo, pwedeng unahin mo divide by 3, then saka mo multiply by square root of 3 or multiply by square root of 3, then divide by 3. Then for you to find for the hypotenuse, that's still twice the shorter leg. So once you find out for the measure of the shorter leg, just multiply it by 2, then you'll come up with the measure of the hypotenuse. So paano ginagawa? Let's have this example again. So this time the given is the longer leg. Given yung longer leg natin. So to find for the shorter leg, sabi dito, longer leg, that's 12. I think divide po na by 3, that would be 4. Times square root of 3, you'll come up with 4 square root of 3. Then for you to find for the hypotenuse, that's just twice the shorter leg. Twice the shorter leg, that's 4 times 2. You'll come up with 8, then copy square root of 3. Hindi pwedeng sabihin na mas mataas yung measure ng shorter leg, ng longer leg na to than the hypotenuse. When you simplify 8 square root of 3 using calculator, you'll find out that still mas mataas pa rin yung measure of this hypotenuse than this longer leg. So the measure of the longer leg of the hypotenuse is equal to 8 square root of 3. Did you get that? Next, what if the given is the hypotenuse? If the given is the hypotenuse and you are asked to find for the shorter leg, so that is just half the hypotenuse. Shorter leg is half the hypotenuse. Kalahati ng hypotenuse, yun yung measure ng shorter leg. While for the longer leg, the shorter leg times the root of 3. Shorter leg times the root of 3. So let's say, for example, that given right triangle. So, given yung hypotenuse, the hypotenuse measures 24. So, for you to find for the shorter leg, which is the side opposite the 30-degree angle, itong side na to, so just simply half the hypotenuse divided by 2, 24 divided by 2 will come up with 12. So, the measure of the shorter leg is 12. How about the measure of the longer leg? That shorter leg should be multiplied by square root of 3. That should be 12 square root of 3. So that's the measure of the shorter leg and longer leg given the hypotenuse. May question? So ngayon, paano ginagamit yan in quadrilateral? So let's have this example. There's another one. 30, 60, 90 degrees pa lang naman yun. So we do have another special right triangle which is 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle. Paano naman yung tsura nun? So ganyan naman yung 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle. Still, the longest side is the hypotenuse, while the other two sides are the legs. walang mas mataas ang measures kaya because these two sides have equal measures. They are congruent in measure. Because the angles are 45 degrees. So congruent yung measure ng dalawang leg niyan. So that's why walang mas shorter, walang mas longer. Kapag 45 degree angle, it's just like we are going to we have come up with an isosceles right triangle. Tayo yung parang given natin dyan. So 45 in 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle. Again, just like yung 30, 60, 90, isang given lang ng measure ng side, makakuha na agad natin measure the other two sides because it's special right triangle. So it's importante, may kita natin isa yung measure na to together with the 90-degree angle. Doon sa given natin, sa given right triangle natin together with the measure of one of the side, then we can get the measure of the other two sides of it. So paano? So, letter A, if the given is the leg, for example, any of the leg is given. So if the given is the leg, to find for the hypotenuse, it will just be equal to leg times square root of 2. So yung given leg mo, just multiply it by square root of 2, then you'll get the measure of the hypotenuse. So paano yun? Let's have this example. So, 30, for example, yung measure of this leg. Kung 30 yun, of course, the other leg is also 30 because they are congruent in measure. Okay? So, basta given yung leg, alam mo na agad yung measure nung isa because they are congruent. So, you are asked to find for the measure of the hypotenuse. So, the measure of the hypotenuse, sabi doon, leg is to be multiplied by square root of 2. So, paano? So, 30 times square root of 2 will come up with 30 square root of 2. So, ganun natin pinukuha yung measure of the sides using the 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle. Next, letter B. What if the given is the hypotenuse? So, given the hypotenuse, we are going to find for the measure of the leg. So, to find for the measure of the leg, it will be equal to the hypotenuse times square root of 2 divided by 2. So, pwede rin divide mo na by 2, then saka multiply by square root of 2. So, let's take for example, paano? Kung na tayong given 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle, so let's say ang given na hypotenuse, the hypotenuse given is 50. Measure of the hypotenuse is 50. So, we are going to find for the measure of the leg. Sabi doon, hypotenuse divide by 2, then multiplied by square root of 2. So, hypotenuse divide by 2 muna, pwede na gawin natin 50 divided by 2. That would be 25. Times square root of 2 will come up with 25 square root of 2. So, kung 25 square root of 2 to, this is also measures 25 square root of 2. So, kapag ang given mo ay 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle, isa lang kailangan mong kunin kasi mas nakuha mo yung isa, ganun na din yung isang measure of the other leg. Not unlike the 30, 60, 90, you have to get the measure of the other two sides of that right triangle na 30, 60, 90 special right triangle. Any question? So, saan natin ginagamit siya sa quadrilateral? So, let's have this example. Sabi dito, quadrilateral POGI is a square. Diba, example natin is a square. Find perimeter and area. Find the perimeter of the square and the area of that square. So, paano natin malalaman yung perimeter and area without knowing first the measure of the sides of that square? So, malalaman natin yon by having this given. Given yung diagonal of a square, and that diagonal measures 8 square root of 2. And the measure of the angle is 45. This angle measures 45 degrees. So, ibig sabihin, this diagonal, naka-form tayo ng special right triangle na 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle. We know that a square has 4 right angles. So, to solve for the perimeter and area, kailangan natin gamitin yung mga given na yan. We have to solve first for the side. Kailangan natin solve muna yung side bago natin ma-solve yung area and perimeter. Paano solve yung side? Using a 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle. Given the hypotenuse, we can find for the measure of the leg. Paano? So to find for the leg, it's the hypotenuse times square root of 2 divided by 2. So given yung hypotenuse given the hypotenuse to find for the leg, the hypotenuse, pwedeng divide muna by 2, then multiplied by square root of 2. Pwedeng ganon. So that's the measure of the side. So substitute, that's the hypotenuse, 8 square root of 2 times square root of 2 divided by 2. So pwedeng divide mo 8 divided by 2, that would be 4. And square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4. So meron tayong 4 square root of 4. And square root of 4 is 2. Tama? So 4 times 2 now is equal to 8. So therefore, ang measure ng leg ay 8. So this side measures 8. If this is 8, since square yan, the measure of the other 3 sides also 8. So by knowing that, we can find out now the measure of the perimeter of that square as well as the area of the square. So unahin natin yung solving for the perimeter. To solve for the perimeter, we can use the formula P is equal to 4S. We know that the side measures 8. So simplify lang natin, substitute lang natin, we come up with 4 times 8. So 4 times 8 is equal to 32 units. So the perimeter of that square is equal to 32 units. How about the area? So to solve for the area, we can use the formula. Area is equal to S squared, or side times side, di ba? That's the formula for finding the area of a square. Side times side, or S squared. The measure of the side is 8. So substitute it. So that would be 8 squared. So 8 squared, that would be 64. Since we are pertaining to the square, or the area of that square, it should be in square units. So it should be 64 square units as the area of that given square with a given measurement, or with a given measure of that diagonal, which is 8 square root of 2, and one the measure of the angle is 45-degree angle. So para nakuha natin yung perimeter and area na yon with the help of the diagonal of a square that forms a special right triangle na 45, 45, 90 degrees special right triangle. So that's how we answer that example. So any questions? So I hope yung lahat ng mga examples na binigay natin today ay naintindihan nyo, so that mababanggit nyo rin yung mga katagang minention natin kanina na yes, yes, yes. So kung wala na kayong tanong, that would be all for today. Goodbye, class!